Hello there, good evening indeed, and many thanks for joining us right here on Rwanda Television News. We do hope you had yourselves a productive start to your week. Now, this is what makes our top stories tonight. The High Court in London has ruled that the agreement between Rwanda and the UK in efforts to resolve the migrant crisis is legal. The government of Rwanda has assured the Burundian government that the partnership in voluntarily repatriating Burundian refugees in Rwanda still stands. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Uzziel Ndagijimana, has reiterated that the government is doing everything possible to build the capacity and a resilient, sustainable agriculture sector in order to keep up the agricultural output. We are very glad to have you join us tonight on Rwanda Television News, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Sam Kalisa. And as we begin off this edition of the news, let us inform you that the High Court in London has ruled that the agreement between Rwanda and the UK in efforts to resolve the migrant crisis is legal. The court ruled on Monday that the scheme did not breach the UN's Refugee Convention or human rights laws. The deputy spokesperson of the government of Rwanda has gone on record to say that the country welcomes the ruling and is committed to fulfilling its end of the deal. Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has also welcomed the High Court's ruling, calling it a common sense position that is supported by the vast majority of the British people. And moving ahead, the government of Rwanda has assured the Burundian government partnership in voluntarily repatriating Burundian refugees here in Rwanda. This is after the continued campaign of the government of Burundi to sensitize Burundian refugees in Rwanda to voluntarily go back home. Prince Manzi has this report.
On Monday, on Nemba border in Bugesera district, the governors of the eastern and southern province, Emmanuel Gasana and Dadis Kaitesi, welcomed the delegation from Burundi led by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Defense of Burundi, Lieutenant General of Police André Ndayambaje, and governors of Kirundo, Kayanza and Bururi. It is a visit intended to sensitize Burundian refugees to voluntarily return in Burundi. In the discussions between both sides that took place at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, the permanent secretary in this ministry, Clementine Mukeka, assured that Rwanda is ready to contribute for the sensitization of the Burundian refugees to return home be successful. This is where the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Defense of Burundi, Lieutenant General of Police André Ndayambaje, iterated on the good relations between the two countries. We thank the government of Rwanda for they acquired these refugees as well as their contribution for the first repatriation of refugees in 2020 and 2021. We are here to emphasize the friendship between these two states and the political will of Burundi in emphasizing on the strong good relations with your country. We are also here to hear from the leaders of Rwanda, discuss on the possible way to use in the repatriation of refugees.
Le processus de rapatriement des réfugiés burundais.
On this first day of their visit in Rwanda, the Burundi delegates had discussions with the refugees representatives living across Rwanda, discussions that the Burundian refugees state that it is a milestone, as explained by their representative, Patrice Nadohoka. We did not know that they would come here to see us. For them to be here is a great step we appreciate. Another thing is that Burundi's new president is willing to better things in our country. And we had a request to make that some of the refugees had possessions like houses, lands that were taken, as well as the money from accounts. All these to be given back as the EAC concluded that the presidential term we fled from was not true. The permanent secretary in the Ministry of Defense of Burundi, Lieutenant General of Police André Ndayambaje, points out that the issues demonstrated by the refugee representatives living in cities are to be presented to the government for them to be solved.
Nivyumvikana yuko iyo wahunze ufise impamvu
We understand that for a refugee to return back is for the issues they fled from to have ended. We had their request. Now, we can say that the issues they fled from have now ended. But for those still having issues, they will be presented to the government for them to be solved. Because repatriation is voluntary, but also has to be safe. In Rwanda, there are at least 49,000 Burundian refugees. Philippe Abishuti, the permanent secretary in the ministry in charge of emergency management, states that Rwanda appreciates the Burundi's move of repatriating refugees.
Twanabaganije kuri experience nako dufite tubereka ko ari yo ntambwe ya mbere kuko umuntu wahunze igihugu.
We shared also on our experience and told them how this is the first step, because for someone who fled from his country to return, it's for the government to ensure him that the issues that he fled from are no longer there, and that problems still found can be solved along the way. In the repatriation of refugees, this is the first step, and we appreciate that Burundi did it. These discussions will help both the government and the refugees to understand the situation for a safe repatriation. In 2015, about 74,000 refugees from Burundi came to Rwanda due to political insecurities that rose after the blockade of a coup d'etat against President Peter Nkurunziza. But from 2020 until now, the repatriated are 30,000. In 2020, the repatriated were 7,894. In 2021, they were 21,631, and in 2022, the repatriated are 790. Prince Manzi, RTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for the report. Moving ahead, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Uzziel Ndagijimana, has reiterated that the government is doing everything possible to build a capacity and a resilient, sustainable agriculture sector in order to keep up the agricultural output. Although the country's gross domestic product, GDP, increased by 10% in the third quarter of this year, the agriculture sector increased by just 1% due to unfavorable weather conditions. We do have more on this report.
Statistics indicate that in the third quarter of this year, Rwanda's GDP increased by 10% from 7.5% in the second quarter. The service sector accounted for 47% of the total GDP, with hotels and restaurants growing by 90%, technology services increased by 34%, the education sector by 26%, the transportation sector rose by 26%, retail trade by 20%, while financial services rose by 8%. Agriculture accounted for 24% of the GDP. The industrial sector accounted for 21% and 8% for net direct taxes. However, domestic crop production fell by 1%, while industrial production fell by 1% due to a 17% decline in construction activities. The Director General of the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, Yusuf Murangwa, highlighted some of the reasons for the decline in construction activities in this quarter. When the construction sector grew tremendously in the same quarter for the previous year, we experienced a downtime period where investors wait until their investments start to return income so that they can invest in other areas. So we cannot say this is a big issue unless it persists. In the third quarter, agriculture export production dropped by 1% due to the fact that coffee production decreased by 7.2%, while tea production increased by 22%. In a bid to deal with issues caused by climate change, which is the root cause for low production, the Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Uzziel Ndagijimana, noted that the country is building the resilience of the agriculture sector. Climate change effects affect the produce. In the long run, we will enhance the use of irrigation so that even during drought, agriculture activities can continue. According to the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, the figures for the past 3 quarters is an indication that the country's target of achieving a 6.8% economic growth in this fiscal year will be attained despite the many obstacles that have disrupted the economy.
63 members of parliament from Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, South Sudan, Tanzania, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as ex-officio members, took the oath on Monday in Arusha in the inauguration of the 5th East African Legislative Assembly. Betty Mutoni brings us the report.
Since the establishment of the Regional Assembly in 2001, 5 speakers from Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda and 2 from Uganda served a 5-year term of speakership position in East African Legislative Assembly. On Monday, 19 December 2022, the 5th East African Legislative Assembly sworn in its new members, and some of the new elected members expect a lot to be done to make sure that some of the challenges, such as insecurity in the region, can be solved.
As you know, peace and security is the prerequisite to socio-economic and political integration. We need to have peace in our region. Unfortunately, there are still conflicts and armed conflicts here and there. We still have genocide ideology in the region. We still have challenges of terrorism, human trafficking, transboundary crimes. I think we need to come together as a community and each and everyone to fulfill their expectations, their requirements, so that we can live peacefully as neighbors in this community. And then the other issue where we have to strengthen is on the issue of accountability. We need to hold our partner states and the Secretariat and all the institutions of the EAC accountable. Every dollar that is spent that comes from our taxpayers, all the involvement partners, as an assembly through the respective committees, we have to ensure that the money is spent well, that every leader in the community is accountable for their role, that the various decisions undertaken by the council, by our heads of state, by even this assembly are implemented, because we still have a challenge of implementation.
And also work to make sure with other colleagues of mine in the community that the community is united in its foreign policy, it is united in its quest for peace and stability, such that development can prosper equally and equally to all the members of the community. Again, in the cardinal objective of the community itself is that the member state of the communities and the people should trade together so that there is an access to market opportunities for all. And in that direction, I will make sure that laws that are friendly and conducive to advance trade among the member states.
Honorable Mathias Harebamungu, Rwanda Member of Parliament, is so grateful for the Republic of Rwanda to allow him to represent the country, and he is very confident that together with other partner states, East Africa will achieve its goals.
I have to thank the President of Rwanda because he is the one who delegated us. So having selected me among the Rwandans who are above 13 million and pick me as a single citizen to represent the community, I am really very thankful to the President and to the RPF. But as we are here coming from different parties, I can show that we will work as a team and determined to help to work with our brothers and see how really our East African Legislative Assembly can show up and had a great vision within the region, our continent Africa, and the world.
The inauguration of the 5th East African Legislative Assembly ceremony was attended by the former speakers of EALA, and Tuesday, 20th December 2022, the elected members are expected to vote for the speaker of this assembly, and the battle will be between Sudan and Burundi. Betty Mutoni, RwandaTV, in Arusha, Tanzania.
Thank you, Betty. The Rwanda National Police has appreciated the cooperation of the government of Rwanda in fulfilling its responsibility of managing public safety. This was noted during the Police High Council gathering on Monday. Jessica Agasaro brings us this report.
In the meeting held every quarter, they discussed the performance, ethics, and social welfare of the police and the use of resources. The Inspector General of the Police, CG Dan Munyuza, appreciated the government's role in building police capacity.
We thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic, for giving us the necessary resources to continue building the capacity of the police to fight road accidents. In this capacity, we can say that there are many speed enforcement cameras on the roads and the increase of automobile inspection centers in the provinces of the country.
It was revealed that in the year of 2022, the top crime were assault, thefts, drug trafficking, smuggling, and child molestation. The Minister of Interior, Alfred Gasana, emphasized that the security of the people will not be good if they don't put much effort in participating in.
Buriya mu mutekano haba hakenewe ubufatanye bw'inzego zitandukanye.
In order to be safe, there is a need of cooperation between different institutions, both the security and the people. If the resident cooperates with the authorities and manages them, security will be achieved. We will continue to have it, but especially in this festive season. We must finish the year peacefully.
Byihariye muri iyi minsi ihera umwaka tugomba kuzayirangiza amahoro.
In the 416 sectors that make up Rwanda, the police working in 219 is a hindrance to its performance, but the Minister of Interior said that there is a consideration of how each sector will have a police station.
Ubundi cyakabaye cyiza ni nayo gahunda ihari nuko muri buri murenge twahasanga station ya police.
The good thing will be that there's a police station in every sector. But the fact that we haven't reached that goal, there are already measures in place for that because it is clear that with the current situation, resources can become very stretched due to services that need to be provided to the people.
In the continuing to improve the role, the police are required to have a good behavior because that is what makes them work professionally and provide opportunity for peacekeeping mission abroad. Rwanda currently has 1,957 police officers on a mission in Mozambique and Central African Republic. Jessica Gasaro, RwandaTV.
Congolese refugees living in the Kiziba refugee camp in Karongi district of the Western Province have asked the government of the DRC and the international community to stop the persecution of the Tutsi in that country and allow them to return back home.
Thousands of Congolese refugees living in the camp carried out a peaceful march on Monday to denounce what they say are the shameful atrocities being committed back home in the DRC with their government's consent.
The FDLR are treated better than the real Congolese. Tshisekedi has become the legal representative of the FDLR and is truly unfortunate.
We condemn the genocide being committed against the Tutsi in Congo. As we speak, there are over 120 armed groups in North and South Kivu, all trained by the FDLR to kill. And now look, we are refugees. We are appealing to the world to have mercy on us and bring back peace to Congo. The refugees delivered their message in the multiple languages used in the different areas they come from in the eastern DRC, but all spoke of the terrible things being done back home.
Young girls are being gang raped and others are having their breasts cut off across the border. It's heartbreaking. We are stuck here as refugees. Is being Tutsi supposed to be an insult? None of us chose to be born in Congo. Those are borders that were drawn up in the past, and the world should do the right thing and stop the atrocities being committed there.
I ran away from the numerous groups there hunting us, the FDLR, Nyatura and other groups. I do not want to return as long as the FDLR maintains a presence there and would rather stay here. The world should do something about the Tutsi being killed there so that we can go home.
I came from Uvira Mulonge. When the war came, I was in the house and heard commotion. I looked outside and saw soldiers. My 2 children, Eric and Sakina, were in front of the house and they killed them. I was crying, my 3rd child, Nina, on my back, so I ran.
The representative of the refugees stresses that their grievances are legitimate. We did this to show the international community the terrible things that are being done to the Tutsi in Congo, including killing them, and the world is just watching silently. Nothing is being done, at least anything we can see. We currently have little hope of returning home. First, we want the killing to stop. The Tutsi are not animals and should be allowed to live in peace, just like all other people. We have been refugees for many years and just want to go back to our motherland, Congo. The Chiziba refugee camp that was established in 1996 has the most Congolese living in it in the country at more than 16,000.
Rwanda's Court of Appeal has decided that the case of genocide perpetrator Ladislas Ntaganzwa is to be heard on Tuesday at 10 a.m. after his lawyers asked for more time to prepare. Ntaganzwa was sentenced to life in prison because of the atrocities he committed during the 1994 genocide that was perpetrated against the Tutsi here in Rwanda. Rwanda has so far sent out 1,148 arrest warrants for genocide suspects in 33 countries. 12 countries have extradited 29 suspects back to Rwanda to answer for what they did in a country of law, in the court of law, while 25 have appeared in the courts in 9 countries they were apprehended in. Moving ahead, the Rwanda Correctional Service and the Kenya State Department for Correctional Service agreed to strengthen their collaboration in sharing correctional information and skills. Prince Manzi filed this report.
On Monday, a delegation from the Kenya State Department for Correctional Services and the Rwanda Correctional Services convened for discussions that tackled on the collaboration between these 2 institutions. CG John Kibaso Warioba states that the Memorandum of Understanding between Kenya and Rwanda is of great importance.
Memorandum of Understanding between Kenya prisons and Rwanda Correctional Services that expired some times back. For the purpose of this meeting is now to revive it and have discussions such that we can come to a point where the Memorandum of Understanding is now signed. From the briefing that I saw, we are more or less facing same challenges.
The Rwanda Correctional Services spokesperson, SSP Periwera Gakwaya, points out that there are a lot to expect in this partnership.
What
is there for now is the collaboration in the terms of transferring inmates from Kenya to Rwanda and vice versa. And the purpose is to learn from one another. Because when they come here, they ask how we managed to use biogas and we demonstrate how we did it. The same on the Mutuelle de Santé, how inmates are provided with health services. They also helped us in preparing the lesson for inmates, and that is why our officials are discussing to develop and improve our collaboration in accordance to the good relation we have.
In Rwanda, there are 85,235 prisoners, and 93% of them are men. After analyzing the elements of the Memorandum of Understanding, the outcomes will be given to the authorities of both nations to have a final say. Prince Manzi, RwandaTV News.
Now transitioning to matters related to education, educators here in Rwanda say that children should be introduced to technology as soon as possible because the future will rely almost completely on it. On Monday, 70 students were in Muhanga district to be given an introduction to drone technology. Serge Nore.
The children had never seen drones in use the way they did in the southern province and noted on the importance of the technology.
My first impression was that drones can carry many things and it has many sensors that could also help. For example, they can transfer plasma, blood cells and normal blood. They go through the packing and put it in the drone that can fly. We have a robotic car it can go, it needs motor and the battery. It can also, it goes normally. We're trying to build a drone also to fly it. We program and we put the USB cable in the robot, Arduino, the brain of the robot, and then the robot can move.
Gukora drone nanje nari mbifite nk'ikirakana gatoya. Ubusanzwe twigaga coding.
When I was little, I used to have a toy drone, and we do study coding and robotics, and had seen drones in use through videos and simulations. We came here today to Zipline to see how drones are also used in the health sector. The children's teachers say they intend to ensure that the knowledge acquired by the young minds is properly used in the future. We are not preparing them to become just software developers, which is why those studies have been incorporated into the domain of general education. The fact is, in the next 10 to 15 years, it doesn't matter what sector these children will be serving in. They will need this technology. Through the joint efforts of the Rwanda Coding Academy, the Rwanda Basic Education Board, and New Generation Academy, 5 more schools across the country are to begin teaching coding and robotics to kids as an essential in their syllabus.
And now, on behalf of the entire news production, as well as the technical team that made it happen, many thanks for being with us on this edition of Rwanda Television News. We wish you to stay safe and have a fruitful week ahead. Goodbye.